Bill Pidto, along with Alan Hahn and Wally Szczerbiak. Hope everyone is well. Hope everyone is healthy. Hope everyone is ready for the NBA because, guys, it is back. We have developing situations everywhere you look. Tomorrow night, we're on draft night at 8:30. You have free agency beginning on Friday. We have trades that have already occurred. Chris Paul has gone from OKC to Phoenix. Training camps are set to begin December the 1st, and the season, Wally, is set for December the 22nd. That's the start date, so you better get off the golf course, Wally. We got a lot to talk about. A lot is coming down the pike.
Let's go. I can't wait to get back to basketball. It's been since last March. It's about time that we get back in the studio. We start teasing each other. I can't wait for the opportunity the Knicks have to find a really good player with the 8th pick and then another great player at the end of this draft. It's going to be a solid, deep draft. I don't know if they're going to be a ton of stars, but Knicks are positioned fairly well because someone is going to be available at that 8th slot that's really going to make a big impact, I think, this year.
Can we just say welcome back, Knicks fans? Because even though there was a bubble, there were 8 teams that weren't invited to the bubble. The Knicks were one of them. So it's been since March since we've really felt like we've been part of the league. So this is the cool thing about this week is that the Knicks are really feel like you're back in the league and there's some moves to make and there's a new hierarchy. And as Billy, as you said, a lot can change in 1 week because so much is happening condensed into 1 week, which is usually a full off season. So a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Let's go.
All right, so draft night tomorrow night. Again, we're on the air with our coverage beginning at 8:30. There seems to be a consensus in the top 3. LaMelo Ball, James Wiseman, and Anthony Edwards. We don't know in what order, but that seems to be the consensus top 3. Wally, after that, it seems like a free-for-all. If you're the Knicks at 8, what would be your dream scenario?
You're definitely hoping that Tyrese Haliburton falls to 8. He's a really talented kid that hurt his wrist and got hurt halfway through the season last year, so he couldn't really complete his freshman year there at Iowa State. But he's really talented. He's got great size. What I love about him, he's so skilled. He's a good high percentage shooter. He takes good shots. He gets good looks. He also makes his teammates a lot better too. He has a great feel for the game. So when you can combine that basketball IQ with a guy who's very skilled, and the analytics say when he raises up to shoot his jump shots and shoot his free throws and shoot his 3-pointers, they're going to go in at a high percentage. That's the kind of guy the Knicks need on their roster, and I think Tyrese Haliburton is that guy. So we'll see if he falls. I know a lot of teams are high on him, but there's a little bit of a logjam up at those top 5. So 6, 7, and 8 are picks that you really don't know what's going to be there and what's going to be available.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on him. I think he's the best all-around player that you'll see in this draft. I'm not sure he's going to be there at 8, though. That's what you wonder. There's all kinds of talk about where he could possibly go. A little funky-looking jump shot, but as you mentioned, the percentages tell you it goes in. I don't care what it looks like. We want makers, right? We always talk about that. And when you also think about fit, a guy like Haliburton will make somebody like RJ, looks like complementary type players, perhaps. The two of them, he can play off the ball, can play with the ball. And you always want to see about young players growing together. I like him. Now, if he's not there, since you mentioned him, I'll tell you what, I think Devin Vassell is somebody I love too. 3-point shooting and defense. And you really need that. And I think especially with a guy like Tom Thibodeau now as your head coach, you want to see both sides of the basketball. Vassell can bring that. And that's a name that I'm certainly looking for at number 8 if Haliburton isn't there.
Knicks reportedly checked out Vassell at a church in Atlanta, sent the guys down there to check out his jump shot. He's one of the best shooters probably coming out of the draft. All right, so the question also has to be considered, guys, what kind of movement are we going to see? I mean, all bets seem like they're going to be off. There could be some trades. Alan, if the Knicks move up, they move up from 8, what do you think they may be looking at?
It depends on where they move, but one trade or one offer that was reportedly out there about a while ago as well is Golden State was looking to get out of number 2, and they actually, one of the reports said, contacted the Knicks about a trade out of number 2, swapping the picks, but also looking for Mitchell Robinson. They want a front court player that's starter ready for a team that, as we know, is probably going to look to make a quick run now that they are healthy again, and they were eyeing Mitchell Robinson. Now, the Knicks certainly said no to that right now. But if they were going to make a move like that, and that's obviously where a guy like the James Wiseman, who's got a ton of talent, obviously very young, but if you were looking to make that kind of a swap, you'd look there. But to me, if you're moving up, it's for somebody that's a plug-and-play, ready-to-play player in a deal that you feel you're not giving up a lot. In a draft like this where some teams are looking to move back, So if it's not for something that extreme at number 2, then I would think maybe they have their eyes on Obi Toppin, the player of the year. And if they can get a couple of spots up, maybe just leapfrog one team to get him, I think that's something that they might consider doing.
I could see that. I like the big 3 in this draft. You talk about Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, and James Wiseman. I think those guys are going to be really, really good pros. And I put LaMelo Ball as the 3rd in line out of those 3. I just see a lot of similar, characteristics to Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball's one of those guys who's a great passer. He's a great teammate, but he's not a high percentage shooter. And I think that's why he's already been traded throughout his career, being the number 2 pick in the draft. I just don't see his upside to be really, really high in the league throughout his career. And I think LaMelo is going to be kind of the same way. A lot of flash and dash in his game, but I just don't see it correlating to high percentage shooting in the analytics in the NBA when you have to be a high percentage shooter. My guy in this draft by far, and I said it the second I laid eyes on him when he suited up at Georgia, is Anthony Edwards. This guy has serious talent. He could be a Bradley Beal type, and I'm in love with Bradley Beal's game, as you guys know, because he just shoots the blood out of the ball, and he really can facilitate and pass. Without John Wall, he's become an absolute superstar, and I think Anthony Edwards has those type of talents. And then James Wiseman, he's like a Mitchell Robinson, but more filled out, stronger, more skilled, ready to go, I think, in the NBA. So those 3 guys are going to make big impacts. And if the Knicks are going to move up, or try to get one of those 3, especially Anthony Edwards, if you can pull it off.
All right, so the Knicks could stay at 8. Maybe they move up. Alan, also, they could potentially move down, get an asset, move down. A lot of parity coming out of this draft. Maybe they think they can get one of the guys that they really want at a lower position than 8.
A team that you got to watch is the Boston Celtics, because this is a draft, like you mentioned, Wally. It's got depth, but you don't have any superstars in this draft. And if you're Boston, maybe you're eyeing one player that can fit perfectly with what you're doing, and you want to move up. So you take some of those picks. They've got 14, 26, and 30. So I'm going to go hypothetical. If they come to me and they want 8 and 27 for their 3, you think about it, because Kyra Lewis is a point guard that a lot of people are talking about. 8 might feel a little high for him, but certainly not 14. And there's other players you can get there as well. Tyrese Maxey out of Kentucky, who a lot of people think have great potential as well. And the Knicks have a little more of that Kentucky connection as well now with Kenny Payne as an assistant coach, and he certainly knows him pretty well. So if I'm moving back, if I'm moving out of the top 10 but staying in the lottery, those are 2 names that I certainly keep an eye on. You never know. You can package some picks, move around. This could feel like that kind of a draft with teams looking to move and collect more assets.
Wally, what do you think about the chances or the possibility of moving down? If so, what would you want in return?
Well, I think it's a really smart move with the Knicks, because you look at their roster, they need to fill out their roster with real viable NBA talent. And the way you do that, in my opinion, is through the draft. So I think the Knicks got to stockpile a lot of draft picks. Obviously, they have 8, which is a high pick, and 27. But if you can somehow parlay 8 and 27 into something like Alan mentioned, where you can get maybe 3 to 4 players, as opposed to just maybe getting 2 viable NBA starters or NBA roster type players, I think that's a move the Knicks definitely have to look into. And again, this draft is very deep, in my opinion. I don't think it's top heavy, where the top 10, you're going to be guaranteed to get a really, really superstar type, starter type player. But 10 to 20, some of the best players could come out of this draft from the 10 to 20 mark. I've seen these guys play. There are a lot of guys who you're wondering why they're not projected higher. A guy like Cole Anthony, for example, coming out, he looked like he was going to be a top 5 pick, and the Knicks were going to be salivating to try to get him, to hand him the keys to the franchise to run the point guard position, and he slipped all the way down, projected, right around 15 to 20. So Cole Anthony is a guy who I loved in college. I mean, he put up big numbers. He played after having that knee injury. I love the heart that he showed there at Carolina. And I think he's the type of guy who, when he gets drafted, he's going to be ready to contribute right away. So at 15 to 20, he's a real value pick in my mind. But the Knicks, if they do move down, would be perfect fit.